Why do you wake up feeling drained even after 8 hours of sleep? Why do you crave food at night, panic before decisions, or feel inexplicably attached to someone or strangely distant? The answer is not laziness, weak willpower, or poor character. It is chemistry. Long before your mind registers choice, long before thought arrives, hormones are issuing orders, invisible yet absolute, shaping almost every moment of your life. Hormones, tiny molecules carrying absolute authority, racing through your bloodstream like secret messengers with one purpose: to command. Not to suggest, not to ask, not to negotiate. A gland produces them. They travel, they arrive, and the body obeys. Every pulse, every shiver, every heartbeat, every craving, they are all replies to orders you never gave. Hunger strikes before convenience matters. Alertness flickers before the mind decides to wake. Muscles tense before fear is named. Exhaustion creeps in before you realize your body has already surrendered to fatigue. Even what you think of as personal choices, who you trust, what you pursue, what you avoid, are often set in motion long before consciousness even registers their presence. The startling truth is that most decisions you believe are yours are just the mind arriving late to a story already in progress. Your brain, clever as it seems, is often explaining what chemistry has already decided. Meaning is written after the fact, like a narrator assigning drama to a scene that unfolded without consent. This is the hidden architecture of your life. Not negotiation, not reason, not willpower, but a relentless stream of chemical instructions, shaping priorities, attention, desires, and fears, all operating in the background, invisible, unstoppable. Hormones do not ask who you think you are. They rewrite your reality silently, second by second, always one step ahead of your awareness. The body decides first, the mind catches up later, and only then, if you are lucky, do you feel as though you chose. But the truth, raw and unavoidable, is this: control is an illusion, and your life is orchestrated by forces you cannot see, cannot hear, and cannot debate. Welcome to the world inside you, where biology rules and consciousness follows.
Morning does not begin with an alarm clock. It begins inside you, long before your eyes open, while the world is still quiet. As dawn approaches, a slow chemical shift starts to take place, one that decides whether waking up will feel natural or unbearable. Cortisol begins to rise before you are conscious of the day, not as a stress response, but as a signal of readiness. It increases blood pressure just enough to push oxygen where it is needed. It nudges glucose into the bloodstream to fuel the brain. Neural circuits that were dormant through the night begin to activate, not abruptly, but with deliberate precision. This is the body's way of saying it is time to re-enter the world. When this process works as intended, waking up feels almost effortless. The mind clears gradually. The body feels aligned rather than heavy. But when cortisol fails to rise at the right moment, the result is familiar and deeply frustrating. You can sleep for 8 full hours and still wake up feeling broken, foggy, and disconnected, as if rest never truly arrived. It is not laziness. It is not lack of discipline. It is chemistry missing its cue. Yet this same hormone becomes destructive when it never stands down. When cortisol remains elevated beyond its role as a warning signal, the body stays locked in a state of quiet tension. Sleep becomes shallow, anxiety lingers without an obvious cause. Fat begins to accumulate where it was never meant to go, and the immune system slowly weakens, stretched thin by a signal that was never meant to last all day. What wakes you up can also wear you down if it is not allowed to fade. Alongside this slow awakening comes something faster, sharper, and more immediate. Adrenaline arrives not as a constant presence, but as a brief ignition. It quickens the heartbeat, tightens muscle fibers and sharpens reaction time just enough to turn intention into movement. Without it, even simple actions feel delayed, as though the body is resisting motion. This small surge is easy to overlook, but it is essential. Standing up, walking, responding to sound or light, all of it depends on a controlled release of energy that adrenaline provides. Even the act of leaving the bed requires a subtle chemical push, a momentary shift from rest into action. The body does not transition on willpower alone. It needs ignition. Together, these signals form the real beginning of the day, not motivation, not discipline, a carefully timed conversation between hormones that prepares the body to re-engage with reality. And once this exchange has taken place, the day moves forward, carrying with it the quiet influence of chemistry that never truly stops working. The day continues, and with it comes another quiet conversation happening beneath consciousness, one that shapes desire, decision, and survival. Hunger does not wait for permission. It does not negotiate. Long before you lift a spoon or glance at a clock, your stomach has already begun to speak. Ghrelin, a hormone secreted by the lining of the stomach, rises steadily, anticipating the moments when food will arrive. It is indifferent to logic, indifferent to schedules, indifferent to manners. Its signal is primal, insistent. Sleep too little and it grows louder. The empty hours of the night become a stage for cravings that feel almost impossible to resist, leaving you searching the pantry while the mind protests with reason that is already too late. Hunger is not weakness, it is instruction. And yet hunger has a counterpart, one meant to restore balance, to signal the body that enough is enough. Leptin, produced by fat cells, whispers restraint. It says, stop, slow down, enough. It is designed to protect the body from overconsumption, to maintain equilibrium. But in modern life, this message is often ignored, diluted, or blocked. Even after the stomach feels full, the brain may refuse to acknowledge the signal, leaving a dissonance that drives continued eating. This resistance is not willpower failing. It is a chemical dialogue gone awry, a core reason why weight accumulates silently, stubbornly, over time. Running alongside these commands is insulin, the master of energy, deciding whether the fuel entering the bloodstream will power the moment or be stored for later. With each bite, sugar floods the veins, and insulin moves to allocate it. When insulin functions smoothly, energy flows, thoughts sharpen, and fatigue is held at bay. When it falters, the mind clouds, hunger persists despite fullness, and the body begins to betray itself with exhaustion, sugar imbalances, or even disease. Energy is not just a sensation, it is the outcome of precise chemical adjudication. Even the intestines themselves have their own understated way of shaping behavior. Peptide YY and cholecystokinin, the silent messengers of the gut, signal when the body has had enough, slowing digestion and delivering a quiet sense of satiety. They are subtle, deliberate, and immediate, acting only when the act of eating is underway. But the modern rush, the habit of swallowing meals in a blur, can override them. Signals arrive unheard, unheeded, leaving the body still craving, still moving, still searching for a balance it can never quite sense. In every bite, in every pang of desire, in every pause between meals, the body is conversing silently with itself. It instructs, adjusts, anticipates, and corrects, all without the conscious mind realizing it. Hunger and fullness, energy and storage, desire and restraint, these are not abstract experiences. They are the results of chemical commands, working relentlessly to keep life functioning, long before awareness ever enters the room. As the day moves forward,
the body shifts from survival to engagement, from hunger and wakefulness to the mechanics of attention and drive. Here, the chemical orchestra plays a subtler yet no less commanding role. Dopamine, often misunderstood as merely the hormone of pleasure, is in truth the hormone of expectation, the signal that turns potential into pursuit. It rises not when the goal is reached, but before it is even attempted, urging the mind and body forward, fueling ambition, focus, and the restless energy that keeps action alive. Every glance at a screen, every notification, every small digital reward floods the brain with surges of dopamine, immediate and overwhelming, teaching the nervous system to crave anticipation over fulfillment. Long-term work, the kind that builds skill, mastery, or insight, releases it slowly, measured and patient, challenging the mind to persist in the absence of instant reward. It is the quiet chemical tension between instant gratification and deferred achievement, shaping not only what we do, but how we value what we do. Alongside dopamine moves noradrenaline, the agent of clarity and speed. It sharpens perception, hones attention, accelerates thought, and prepares the body to act with precision. Decisions come faster, reactions are cleaner, the mind slices through distraction. Yet it is a delicate balance. Too little, and focus splinters, attention drifts, and the simplest tasks feel chaotic. Too much, and anxiety creeps in, thoughts race uncontrollably, and clarity becomes tension. These chemicals do not ask permission. They do not pause for reflection. They set the tempo of engagement, dictating whether work feels effortless, urgent, or impossible. The mind may believe it is choosing, but often it is simply following the cues of invisible messengers that decide when to sharpen, when to slow, and when to overwhelm. In this quiet battlefield of the brain, the essence of productivity and procrastination is written not by intention, but by biochemistry. Every pursuit, every focus, every lapse and distraction is orchestrated in advance by forces that move unseen, yet with absolute authority, directing the flow of attention and the rhythm of action. As the hours advance and the mind navigates through tasks, the body begins another quiet conversation. This one not about survival or drive, but about connection and safety. Oxytocin, often called the hormone of trust, moves silently through the bloodstream, activated by touch, by proximity, by the simple act of closeness. A hug, a shared glance, a hand held in understanding. These gestures do more than comfort the conscious mind. They release a chemical signal that lowers stress, quiets the nervous system, and tells the body that it is safe to relax, to open, to connect. Relationships, friendship, love, even fleeting human interactions are guided by this invisible current, orchestrating feelings of security and bonding long before thought attempts to interpret them. It is not the mind that chooses whom to trust or feel safe with. Often it is oxytocin writing the first draft of that choice, laying down patterns of attachment and ease before awareness enters the scene. Running parallel, serotonin quietly stabilizes the internal climate of mood, appetite, and sleep. It is the steadying force that allows the mind to navigate the day without tipping into despair, anxiety, or obsession. When serotonin levels drop, the effects are subtle at first, a heaviness that clings to thought, a restlessness that wakes the night, a compulsion that insists on repetition. Over time, these deficits can become profound, manifesting as depression, anxiety, or obsessive patterns that feel unshakable. Modern medicine has long recognized the significance of serotonin, crafting interventions that target its balance, yet its influence is not limited to treatment. Every regulated mood, Every restful night, every measured response to stress is guided by its quiet presence. Together, oxytocin and serotonin create the invisible scaffolding of human emotional life. They shape how we relate, how we feel safe, how we experience joy or comfort, and how we endure tension without collapse. These chemicals do not act on whims or preferences. They are the unseen architects of empathy, intimacy, and stability, quietly determining how the world is experienced emotionally, long before consciousness weighs in. In their rhythm, trust is built, anxiety is managed, and the soul finds its fragile balance, all orchestrated by signals the mind rarely notices, yet cannot escape. But life is not always calm, and the body's chemical orchestra is not always gentle. There are moments when the world demands urgency, when threat appears suddenly, and the quiet conversations of dopamine or serotonin are replaced by the roar of survival. In these moments, adrenaline floods the bloodstream like a warning siren, awakening every muscle, every nerve, every fiber of the body. Heartbeat races, senses sharpen, reflexes accelerate. Fear and shock converge into a single undeniable command: act, now, before it is too late. Thought slows, deliberation fades, and instinct takes the reins. You move faster, respond quicker, and survive because your body no longer waits for permission from reason. Decisions that would take minutes in calm are resolved in an instant, dictated by chemicals older than civilization itself. Running alongside adrenaline is cortisol, the hormone of long-term survival, a chemical lifeline in moments of sustained danger. Cortisol elevates blood sugar, halts digestion, and shifts energy to what matters most: fight or flight. In the short term, it preserves life, giving the body reserves to endure trauma, stress, or injury, but it does not know mercy. When the signal remains, when the body is trapped in a state of prolonged alert, what was once protective becomes destructive. Cells are worn down, immunity falters, sleep escapes, and every organ begins to pay the hidden cost of constant vigilance. A system designed to save life slowly erodes it, quietly, persistently, until the body that once responded flawlessly begins to falter. This is the paradox of survival. The very chemicals that keep us alive when the unexpected strikes can, if left unchecked, become agents of decay. They demand attention, but they do not negotiate. They shape responses, define limits, and ultimately remind us that every sensation of fear, shock, or urgency is more than emotion. It is biology acting decisively, silently, and without pause. The body does not debate danger, it enforces it, and in doing so, it writes the terms of life and death in a language far beyond consciousness. As the day unfolds and survival gives way to effort and ambition, another layer of the body's silent governance begins to shape action, energy, and resilience. Testosterone, often misunderstood as a signal of masculinity alone, is in truth a hormone of drive, of initiative, of force applied to the world. It stirs motivation, ambition, and the quiet confidence to act, to push boundaries, to seek challenges. Present in all bodies, it dictates more than physical strength. It colors determination, influences persistence, and fuels the subtle hunger to move forward. When levels fall, even slightly, the consequences ripple beyond the physical. Energy wanes, passion fades, the mind hesitates at thresholds it once crossed without thought. Motivation becomes a distant memory, a whisper of what once was. Running parallel is estrogen, a hormone whose influence spans from bones to mood, from mental clarity to emotional balance. Its presence ensures structure within the body, fortifying the skeletal frame, regulating cycles of thought and feeling, and maintaining the harmony between action and reflection. Yet when it falters, the effects often appear first in the mind. Focus drifts, mood destabilizes, decisions feel heavier, slower, more fraught. The body follows the mind's lead, but the mind is already negotiating with absent chemical signals, struggling to maintain equilibrium in their absence. What feels like fatigue, irritability, or distraction is often chemistry speaking before consciousness can interpret its meaning. Then comes growth hormone, the unseen architect of restoration, operating in the quiet hours of night when the world sleeps but the body continues its work. It repairs tissue, strengthens muscles, renews cells, and restores vitality lost in the heat of activity. Without it, recovery is partial, incomplete, the body slowly losing ground against the wear of life. And sleep is the currency it requires. When nights are short or fractured, growth hormone falters, repairs stall, and the body begins accumulating the invisible damage of neglected restoration. Energy, strength, and resilience are not merely products of effort, they are the result of signals, invisible yet decisive, that dictate how the body rebuilds itself after each challenge, each exertion, each day lived in full. In these layers, energy is not merely felt, it is commanded. Drive, clarity, and recovery are all chemical conversations, silent yet relentless, forming the architecture upon which every movement, every thought, every achievement depends. As the sun dips below the horizon and shadows stretch across the world, another chemical symphony begins its nightly performance, guiding the body toward rest, restoration, and the slow surrender of consciousness. Melatonin, often called the key to sleep, rises in response to darkness, a signal as old as life itself. It whispers to the brain, telling neurons that it is time to slow, to release tension, to allow the rhythms of the day to unwind. It sets the internal clock, aligning mind and body with the cycles of the earth, creating a bridge between the waking world and the realm of dreams. Yet even a small intrusion of blue light from screens, from bulbs, from the glow of the modern world can suppress this signal, delaying the onset of sleep, fragmenting the natural flow of rest, and reminding us how easily biology can be disrupted by technology. Alongside melatonin accumulates adenosine, the subtle chemical that carries the weight of wakefulness. Every thought, every step, every action during the day adds to its presence, a slow pressure building in the brain. It does not demand attention with urgency, but it cannot be ignored. Fatigue grows not as a suggestion, but as an insistence, pressing the mind toward surrender, nudging eyelids downward, slowing reaction times, deepening the yearning for stillness. Coffee may temporarily mask its presence, creating a false sense of alertness, but the pressure remains, unrelenting and inevitable, waiting for the moment when the body can no longer resist. Together, melatonin and adenosine choreograph the final act of daily biology. One calls for readiness to sleep, the other ensures that resistance is unsustainable. They regulate the delicate balance between wakefulness and rest, enforcing patterns that sustain life and health. Without them, the body drifts in chemical confusion, energy dissipates unevenly, and repair falters. Sleep is not a choice, it is the outcome of a dialogue between these silent messengers, a negotiation that begins long before consciousness relinquishes control, and continues until the mind finally yields to the authority of biology. In their rhythm, night becomes a sanctuary, a time when the body can heal, reset, and prepare for the challenges yet to come.
Beneath every sensation, beneath every conscious choice, there exists a deeper current of chemical control, subtle yet absolute, shaping life in ways that rarely reach awareness. The thyroid secretes its hormones, T3 and T4, tiny messengers with immense authority. They dictate the pace of metabolism, the warmth that radiates through the body, the energy available for every thought and movement. When they falter, when signals are too weak or too strong, the consequences ripple silently through daily existence. Fatigue creeps in like an invisible fog. Weight shifts unpredictably. Moods sink into quiet despair. These are not failures of will. They are the whisper of a system that has lost its rhythm, a body that no longer burns in harmony with itself. Aldosterone, another silent arbiter, regulates the balance of salts and the pressure of blood. Its influence is steady, almost imperceptible, yet essential. A deficiency can bring dizziness that makes simple standing a negotiation with gravity, fatigue that turns ordinary tasks into slow struggles. The body, when deprived of its usual signals, protests in subtle ways, reminding the mind that unseen forces are at work, holding sway over every cell. ADH, the guardian of water, performs a similar quiet miracle. It prevents the body from losing too much fluid, keeping tissues hydrated and life sustained. Without it, thirst becomes insatiable, urination uncontrolled, and dehydration advances stealthily, threatening balance long before thought realizes the danger. The body's survival is continuously negotiated by hormones that go unnoticed, operating in the background, imperceptible to consciousness, yet commanding the terms of energy, temperature, hydration, and circulation. These chemical overseers do not announce themselves. They do not ask for permission. They do not pause for reflection. Yet every sensation of strength, weakness, vitality, or fatigue is written in their language. The body's most intimate rhythms, from energy to hydration, from metabolism to circulation, are dictated silently, persistently, and without consent, a testament to the invisible rulers that govern every moment of existence. Life, as we experience it, is not only what we feel consciously. It is the product of a hidden dialogue, one that begins long before awareness and continues ceaselessly, long after thought has retreated. And so, when the day winds down, when the mind reflects on choices made, the accomplishments achieved, the fears felt, the desires indulged, a profound question emerges. Who is truly in control? Are we the masters of our actions, or are we, more often than not, the instruments of invisible signals, the silent sway of hormones we cannot see, cannot argue with, cannot stop? Hunger is not weakness, it is instruction. Depression is not laziness, it is chemistry speaking in quiet insistence. Anxiety is not personality. It is a cascade of imperceptible messengers nudging the body and mind toward survival long before thought can intervene. Throughout life, these chemical architects operate in the shadows, orchestrating wakefulness and sleep, drive and pause, craving and satisfaction, fear and courage. They decide when to push, when to protect, when to restore, when to surrender. Consciousness often believes it is steering the ship, but more frequently it is reading the log after the course has already been set. Every emotion, every impulse, every moment of rest or activity is preceded by invisible orders, precise and relentless. You do not choose when to feel hunger, when to love, when to fear, or when to sleep. The body decides first, issuing commands silently, imperceptibly, yet absolutely.
And only after these decisions have been enacted does consciousness step in, offering the illusion of choice. It is not freedom denied, but freedom reframed, life experienced through the lens of chemistry, a mind that interprets rather than originates, a body that governs before the self even arrives. In this understanding, there is both humility and awe. The ordinary rhythms of waking, eating, loving, fearing, and sleeping are revealed to be part of a vast, invisible machinery. We are not merely what we feel, nor what we think. We are living embodiments of a complex dialogue that has been running since the moment life began, a symphony of chemical commands shaping every second, every heartbeat, every breath, and every decision we believe is ours. And in that quiet surrender to the unseen, life unfolds, not as a matter of conscious choice alone, but as a delicate, continuous negotiation between the body's chemistry and the mind's awareness, a story written in molecules, enacted in flesh, and experienced in consciousness.